Well, we've all been on the receiving end of some really bad customer service. And most of the time, we choose to not go back to that organization or place of business. On the other side, we've been a part of some really incredible customer service, even if we're having a problem with one of their products. And because of that, we choose to return to that place, that company, or that business. There's a divide that separates these two organizations, a topic, a theme, something that is present in one and not the other. On today's episode, we're going to be covering the topic of excellence wins. Well, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brownwood Leadership Podcast, where we give you the confidence to lead well. This is episode number 10. We are in double digits. I know that doesn't seem maybe like much to some of you guys, but this is huge. For me personally, I've been working hard and diligently to provide content to you guys to help you have confidence to lead well and to become a better leader. And to inspire you, to encourage you, to motivate you, to push you to be all that you can be. And so, again, as I say in every single episode, thank you so much for being loyal, being committed to this show, and to the content that we teach here. And so it would mean so much if you would just leave a review. If you find something valuable and you want to comment on it, tag it, tweet it, whatever you want, man. It means so much to get this into the hands of more people. And so I'm excited. We're going to jump in today. As you know, if you've been following along, we are doing some bonus episodes covering my top 6 leadership books of 2022. And today we are covering a book called Excellence Wins by Horst Schulze. And he is the co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. If I was being transparent with you, I would hope that somehow this lands into his ear and I could stay at the Ritz-Carlton one day. I've never been there. Just kidding. But this is an incredible book, probably my top 3, top 5 books of all time. Number 1, his story is just super fascinating. But number 2, just to hear the ins and outs of how the hotel actually runs and operates is absolutely incredible. And so we're going to pull some principles out for you and talk about that. Before, I want to share just another personal story with you to kind of set us up. Some of you are going to relate to this very well, and others, you're going to blaspheme the name of Chick-fil-A, and you're going to say, oh, it's a waste of time. But as I was thinking about excellence, especially in the fast food industry, and this is in no way endorsing professionally Chick-fil-A. I will endorse it personally. If you don't like it and you have points on your app, feel free to send those to me. I love Chick-fil-A. But one of the things that Chick-fil-A does above the rest of most fast food companies is that they provide excellence. Simply put, I was trying to figure out how to word that in a fancy way, but there is no fancy way. They are excellent at everything that they do. And the one close to the house, it's only about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, which is probably why I love it so much, because I go there a lot of times. But I'll be honest with you, there are times, depending on when I go, from the time I pull in to the time I pull out, I'm there for about 25 or 30 minutes. Now, I don't know about you. I don't necessarily consider that to be fast food, right? But I have never, maybe once or twice, but I rarely get upset waiting 30 minutes to go through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. Why? Because I know when I order, my order will be correct. It will also be hot. It will also be fresh. I will also be greeted with a smile. I will not seem like a burden or a hindrance to their workday, and I will know that I am a valued customer, and they are truly pleasured. See what I did there? My pleasure to serve me and my family or whoever else is with me. They do nothing short of excellence. And so therefore I continue to go. And so as we think about this idea of leadership, again, leadership is influence, and there's so many different capacities. And so I don't want you to just think about this in regards to organizational leadership, although that's a massive part of it, but think about it in all aspects of your life. Do you practice excellence? When people see your leadership, do they say that guy or that girl is very focused on doing everything that they do with excellence? And so, read this book again. I would encourage you to read it. I can't even do it justice. As I've said in previous episodes, I'm not here to make this content mine. I'm just going to try to make it as personal as we can to our audience while pulling principles out that he has already written and discovered. And so let's jump in. Number 1, is make it personal. As you focus, as you strive to become more excellent, to practice excellence in your leadership, make it personal. And you say, what does that mean? Well, he shares a story about some of the training and the expectations of, I guess they're called bellboys. I don't know. Basically, the people who get your luggage when you pull up at a hotel. And he has trained them, him or her, whoever is out there, to when they go to the vehicle or however they pull up to the hotel, and they begin to get their luggage, they are trained to identify the luggage tag, if they have one, which most people do, on the luggage and find out the person's name. So they've never even really spoken to the person other than a greeting, a hello, welcome to the Ritz-Carlton. They begin to grab their luggage, and the moment that they get to the place that they're going, whether it's the lobby or the room or whatever, they already know the person's name, and they say, here's your luggage, Mr. Johnson. Here is your luggage, Miss Wood. And they already know, like, can you imagine how impactful that is? And maybe you say, well, I don't really know that it's impactful. Let me tell you, it is. It is very impactful to know someone's name, but not only to know someone's name, but to call them by their name. And I almost titled this point or this first thought, Know Their Name. But if I did, I think that many of us would think about the guy who's pulling up at the hotel. Meaning, it would shift our perspective. It would get our minds going down this path of thinking about guests or first-time attenders or a new community partner that we just met or a new patient who just walked into our clinic. It would be this mindset of someone that we've never met. And if I said know their name, yeah, you would be like, yeah, I want to know their name. I want to understand a little bit more about them. I want to address them by the proper name. But we would then forget about the principle of people that you know and have known for a long time. Maybe they even live in your house, of utilizing their name, of making it personal. You say, Brian, I'm not really following you. Let me give you a couple of illustrations. I'll give you a personal one in my home, and then I'll talk about a few organizational things. Excuse me. Obviously, I know my kids' names, right? I named them, and they live in my home. And a lot of times, I'll say, hey, son or buddy, or we have a nickname or baby girl or whatever it is. You obviously call your kids, names that you've made up, and sometimes you use their full government name when they're in trouble, right? But something that I recently started doing that I have seen some significant power in, maybe they don't fully understand the impact of it, but I always pray with my kids. I pray over my kids. We pray on the way to school every morning. We pray before we go to bed, and if we can find some time somewhere else to pray, we do that too. But I've typically prayed for them, but not by name. I would say, God, I pray that you protect my kids today. Let them have a great day at school today. Let them shine bright today. Let them make an impact. Let them be the reason someone smiles today. But recently, especially when we get ready to go to bed, and I noticed this the most with my 6-year-old, I laid down and I said, hey, buddy, let's pray. And I said, God, I thank you for my son, Blake. And the moment I said his name, he perked up and kind of looked over at me like, what's he about to do? Like, what's happening here? And I started using his name specifically, not as if I was talking about him, but I was talking to God on behalf of him. And it changed things. Like his eyes lit up, his posture changed. And so I started using his name. I started making it personal, and it began to deepen our prayer time together, where he felt like I was truly talking and asking and pleading and bringing my request before God on his behalf. And maybe you're not a faith-based person, and that's okay. I just give you that example to say, what would it look like if your coworkers who have been with you for a year or 2 years, or the people that your employees, instead of saying, hey, crew number 6, I need y'all to go here. Hey, come here, bud. Hey, come here. I need you. Like, hey, John, how you doing today, man? Good to see you, John. Hey, listen, I got a few things we need to cover today. All right, John, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you. I want you to know how much you mean to my family, John. Like I could go on and on giving you examples, but you want to have excellence in your leadership. You need to address people by their name. I'll give you one more story I used to do in student ministry. I'm not the greatest at names, and maybe this is why I'm teaching this. After a few encounters, I'm pretty good with it. But in student ministry, we would have students that would come one time and we wouldn't see them again for 4 or 5 months. And I would always call the fellas buddy. Be like, hey, buddy, what's up, buddy? What's up, buddy? And finally, I realized that these kids are hating this. Like, stop calling me buddy. I'm not your buddy. I don't even know you, you creep, right? Like, and so then I learned this other tool where I would come up to somebody until this one backfired, and I wouldn't remember their name. And so I didn't want to call them buddy. And I'd say, hey, man, good to see you. I'm like, hey, remind me how to spell your name again. And until it backfired, someone looked at me, a teenage boy, and he looked at me kind of weird. And he's like, it's David. And I'm like, oh, all right, is it with an I or a Y, right? Like, and so I would use all these tactics to try to remember name. But I remember when I was a youth pastor, addressing these students by names, and they felt valued. They felt like they had worth. They felt like they were seen and noticed. Like in your leadership, address people by their name. I will tell you this, in my marriage, if I use my wife's name, I'm in trouble. Or she's in trouble, right? Like if she ever calls me Brian, I'm like, oh boy, like you better call me babe, honey, sweetheart, something, right? So that principle may not work in your marriage, but everywhere else, practice excellence by making it personal. Use their name and address it in a level of connection, in a level that makes it personal. And I think that you'll see some differences in the way that you lead them and in the way that they respond to your leadership. All right. Number 2, this is a title in the book, actually. Customer service is everyone's job. Customer service is everyone's job. Again, this is one of those that it's easy to think about in regards to organizational leadership, maybe not so much at home, maybe not so much in any type of leadership that doesn't offer a product or doesn't offer customers some type of service. But the principles in it, they apply to everything, okay? And so here's a few rules and expectations that he has for his people. Horst Schulze at the Ritz-Carlton, they have to greet someone when they get within 10 feet of you. So as someone is approaching the lobby, once they get to a 10-foot mark, they must begin to greet. And he was very specific about the 10 foot because at 50 foot, it's not personal anymore. When you're yelling, hey, how you doing across the lobby, and less than 10 feet basically makes people not feel seen and noticed until you're right in front of their face. And so he had a 10-foot rule. His step 2 was to comply with customer wishes. And then step 3 was saying goodbye. Basically, hey, thank you for choosing the Ritz-Carlton today. I hope you have a great week. And so those principles, again, this is kind of specific to the hotel business or some type of service business. You can't necessarily apply them very specifically in every environment. However, you can greet people. When you walk in the office and you're the boss and people are there already working, greet them when you walk in by name. Don't walk to your office because you got 57 things to do and not even speak to the people who work for you and with you or alongside of you. The same thing goes when you walk in your home. I know you had a long day at work and your kids also had a long day at school. When you walk in, go say hi to them, call them by name, give them a hug, tell them you love them. Complying with customer wishes, that one's a little bit challenging. But the goal is we want customers, quote unquote, we want people that we lead to feel as if their concerns, their issues are being heard, noticed, and addressed. It doesn't mean that you say yes to everything that they suggest or say yes to every problem that they bring up to you, but it means that you display this attitude that you are on their team and you are here to serve them. That's what leaders do. And then number 3, saying goodbye. That's an easy one. He's got a few more that are wrapped up in there, but when you get ready to leave the office, when you get ready to leave your place of business or whatever, say goodbye. Hey, I appreciate your hard work today. Thank you. Hey, by the way, I noticed about 1:00 today, you went out and you went above and beyond. I just want to say thank you for that. I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow. Like those are just small things that are wrapped up in excellence that will take you to the next level as a leader in your organization or whatever it is that you're leading to the next level as well. And then number 3, my iPad actually put number 4 on there, and I typed out the word 3 so I didn't mess up, but I did it anyway. And this is my favorite one. And here it is. Every detail matters. Every detail matters. Now, this one is really easy for some people because you're very detail oriented, you're detail minded. And then for others, like myself, It is not. I'm not a detail guy. I'm a vision guy. I see next year. I don't see the next 10 minutes. And I struggle with that. And so in my leadership, and this doesn't have anything to do with today's lesson, but let me just chase this rabbit for a second. I had to surround myself with someone who could complement my weakness. It doesn't mean I completely neglect details and say, oh, not good at it, so who cares? But it means that I knew that it was something that I wasn't specifically wired to do. It wasn't a passion. It wasn't this strong gifting. And I had to get somebody around me on my team to help me so that we could make sure as an organization we are providing excellence. And so I'm going to give you a really cool story from his book to show you how impactful you are as a leader and how excellence wins because of you. All right, here we go. Check this out. They were receiving a bunch of complaints about the speed of an elevator in the mornings. Basically, Ritz-Carlton, it's not a cheap place, so people expected excellence when they went there, and they got it. But after complaint came in of this certain time frame, this certain window, typically it happened around breakfast time in the morning, of the elevator taking 15 minutes to get from a higher floor down to the bottom where breakfast was being served, they finally said, okay, we've got to figure out what's happening here. We've got to get this right. This is not excellent. Nobody should be on the elevator more than 2, 3, 4 minutes to get to where they're going. And so they hired an engineer to come in. He checked everything out mechanically and said, look, there's no reason this elevator should be taking as long as it is to get to the bottom. There's nothing mechanically wrong, so I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, well, let's hire somebody else. So then they hired what they called a scout, all right? And I'm not sure, he didn't use specific terminology here. I'm assuming maybe he placed a camera in the elevator. I don't know. I don't want to say that he did because that may be illegal, and I don't want to misspeak, but he put something in the elevator, whether it was a person dressed up as a guest of the hotel or a camera or what, to figure out what was taking so long. And as he was coming down, what happened, the elevator opened, and an employee who is a service provider to all the housekeepers got onto the elevator. This employee would basically get all the supplies that the housekeepers needed and would take them to floor to floor to floor so that they could have what they needed. And so they got up to the 5th floor, or got down to the 5th floor. I don't remember which way they were going. And the employee walked out, and right when he got ready to walk out, he had a little piece of 2x4, a piece of wood. And he placed the wood in between the two doors so that they couldn't close and the elevator would stay. He would walk to a housekeeper, he would grab linen, come back on the elevator, and he would go up to the next floor, and he would do it again. And they found out what was happening was this guy was the one who was holding up the elevator. But it doesn't stop there. They brought him in. They said, hey, why are you doing that? He said, well, every floor needs linens, and each room needs 2 sets of linens, and that's all we have. We need to have 3 sets. He says, so we're having to steal from floor to go to the next floor and steal from floors to go to the other floors. We're having to kind of make this thing work because we don't have enough linens. And so they brought the linen manager in and said, hey, what's going on here? Why don't we have enough linens? Why do we only have 2 sets? And not an extra, we need 3. And that's what the employee's saying. That's what I agree with. And the linen manager said, well, a few years ago, Mr. Schulze, you're the owner. We had budget cuts. And you told us that we could only have 2 sets of linens per room. And we need 3. And what ended up happening was through all that, in that process, they found the root problem. And guess who it was? The leader. The leader. Now, I'm not saying that every problem is your fault. I'm not saying that every issue came because of a decision that you made. But as we strive for excellence in the areas that we lead, let's be graceful enough. Let's listen enough. Let's keep our minds open enough to uncover, to discover, to reveal what the problem is, and let's figure it out. They thought at first that maybe the elevator was going as slow as it was taking so long because everybody was trying to get to breakfast at the second time. Not it. They thought second that there was a mechanical issue. They brought in an engineer. Not it. Third, they thought it was because the guy was blocking the door to get linens, which in part it was, but there was a reason he was doing it. It was the only way he could carry out his job. That wasn't it. Number 4, They found out the main reason was because they had cut the budget years ago and never went back to check out the details as if they could provide what they needed to provide to have a VIP experience, excellent experience for their guests and their employees. And they found the problem and they fixed it. How many things in our leadership have we adjusted in years prior, months prior, and we've continued to do it because we haven't went back to touch that area, to assess that area, to look at the details of that area. And if we're honest, it's getting done, but it's not getting done with excellence. So here's the challenge questions for the entire episode, okay? Number one, how can you get better about calling people by their name? All right? I know it's a broad statement. I know it's a broad question. It's a broad challenge because there's levels to it. Maybe you need to know their name. Find out how to understand their name. Maybe after that, you need to learn, how can I remember their names? One of the things I did in student ministry was I would take a picture with the kid. If he would allow me, I would write down his name, and then I would go and I had a little document. And I would write his name down on my document, and then I could say I took a picture at such and such day at such and such time. I had a picture on my phone, and then I would be able to connect it. And the next time I saw him, I knew his face, I knew his name, and I put it together. Do that, obviously, with their permission. Whatever tool you need to use, whatever resource to help you memorize names. And then number three, maybe you know their name, maybe you don't have no problems forgetting it. You just need to figure out ways to start using it. Start addressing people by their name. Number two, challenge question in regards to number two, customer service is for everyone's job. In your organization, in your leadership, how fragmented are you? Do you hear things in your organization like, well, that's not my role. Well, that's not my responsibility. That's so-and-so's job. You need to go ask so-and-so. Listen, when we lead people, we are focused on people. It's all about them. It doesn't matter if it's your job. It doesn't matter if it's above you, below you. I'm not saying do it haphazardly, but if somebody asks you a simple question, don't defer them to somebody else. And you as a leader have got to instill that into your people. When someone walks in the door of your organization, everybody that works there better have a basic sense of how to treat, how to speak, how to greet, and how to make that customer or that person that you're leading feel as if they're valued, they are not an inconvenience, and you want them there. And that goes across any board. That goes across the board with your spouse and your kids, right? Like, make them feel welcomed. Everybody is on the same team, and they all have a role to play in that. What steps can you take to incorporate that culture? And maybe it starts with you doing exactly that. And then the last one, every detail matters. What is it that you need to go back and look at and assess? What is it that you are surviving in and not thriving in? What is it that you know you're not doing with excellence? And either you need to get rid of it or you need to make some tweaks and make it excellence. Listen, excellence wins. Excellence wins. And I'll end with the little tagline for the book. It's a no-nonsense guide to becoming the best in a world of compromise. You want to be the best? You got to be excellent. And I'm not saying be the best from a prideful way, but I'm saying they should know that you have put everything that you have into whatever it is that you're leading, and you're doing it with excellence, because excellence wins. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. That's it for this week. Next week, bonus episode again. We're going to be taking these all the way into the new year. Again, I hope that you found value in it, and I would love for you to share this, and I hope that you gain confidence to lead well. I'll see you next week. I hope you have a great day.